All right, let's get right into it. We've all asked ourselves this at some point, right? Who am I? What is this self that I feel like I am every single day? It's one of the biggest questions we can ask, and today we're going to explore two very powerful and very different ways of trying to answer it.
At the very heart of this whole question, there's this huge conflict. On one side, you've got this ancient idea of an unchanging, permanent soul, something timeless. And on the other, a much more modern, scientific view that, well, maybe we're just incredibly complex biological machines. So, which one is it?
So yeah, let's dive right into these two poles that really frame the entire debate. The idea of some eternal soul versus a purely mechanical self.
Now, these two ideas have names: eternalism and nihilism. Eternalism, well, it gives us a sense of permanence, of something solid. Nihilism, on the other hand, can feel pretty bleak and reductive. And what's interesting is that Buddhist thought specifically warns against getting stuck in either of these extremes. It suggests the real truth might be somewhere else entirely. So to try and find that somewhere else, that middle path, we're going to compare two really powerful frameworks, one that's very modern and mechanistic, and another that's ancient and philosophical.
Okay, let's kick things off with that modern mechanistic view, which has its roots in things like cognitive science and cybernetics. In this model, the self isn't a thing at all, it's a process. Just imagine this constant flow of information, everything you see, hear, remember, plus all that internal chatter, language. This information loops back on itself, over and over and over, and eventually creates a stable pattern. That stable pattern, that self-referencing loop, well, that's what we experience as me. It's not some ghost in the machine. It's literally what the machine does.
And you can see the appeal, right? It's elegant, it's based in observable science, no big leaps of faith required. For a lot of people, this is a totally liberating idea that frees us from old dogmas. But, and this is a big but for many, the conclusion can feel really stark. I mean, if we're just an information process, just a super complex algorithm, what does that mean for purpose, for meaning, for human connection? It's a view that can feel like it swings way too far into that nihilism we talked about.
Okay, so what's the alternative? This is where we bring in the threefold truth. And this isn't just some side idea in Buddhism, it's considered the absolute gateway to the whole system of thought. It's a framework designed specifically to find a way between those two extremes of eternalism and nihilism.
So here's how it works, and it's pretty crucial. First up, you have emptiness. This just means that nothing is permanent and nothing stands completely on its own. Next, there's provisional existence. This acknowledges that yes, things, including you, absolutely do exist right now, but they're temporary, and they're shaped by a web of causes and conditions. And then, number 3, the middle. And this is the real kicker. These two things, emptiness and existence, they aren't opposites. They are happening at the exact same time, always. They're two sides of the very same coin.
Okay, so let's put these two ideas head to head. How does that feedback loop model really stack up against this idea of the middle way?
When you put them side by side like this, you see some really profound differences. In the feedback loop model, the self isn't effective a process, but in the middle way, it arises from connection. Now look at awareness. One model says it's just a loop observing itself. The other sees it as the very fabric of reality, what's called the Dharmakaya, expressing itself through you. And this has a direct impact on ethics. Think about it. One path leads you to protect your individual loop, an ethic of survival, of stability. The other leads to compassion for the entire system that you are a part of. The difference in those outcomes is, well, it's immense.
And this quote just nails the heart of the middle way. It's not about choosing between being a soul or being nothing. It's a third option, that life is this dynamic, relational, and deeply interconnected process. You exist right now as a part of this incredible web. So, just to be clear, this isn't about finding some simple compromise, some halfway point between a soul and a machine. It's about a much deeper synthesis. It's about learning to see that the self has no fixed, permanent essence, and yet it is not nothing. It's about holding both of those truths at the exact same time.
This is a really, really important clarification. When we hear that word emptiness in this context, it is so easy to think it means a void or just nothingness. But that's not it at all. What it really means is that nothing exists independently. Everything is defined by its relationships to everything else. So it doesn't point to a void, it points to radical interconnection.
So does this mean we should just get rid of our sense of self entirely? Nope, not at all.
There's this famous parable of the burning house, and it basically suggests that our normal, conventional sense of me and mine can be what's called a skillful means, a useful, temporary tool that helps us get by in the world and can even guide us toward understanding this deeper, interconnected reality.
Okay, so this all sounds pretty fascinating as a philosophical idea, right? But the natural question is, how do you actually experience this? How do you go from just understanding the theory to actually feeling the reality of it?
So how does all this theory actually become practice? Well, the method for experiencing the threefold truth firsthand is a type of meditation called Shikan, and it's designed to take these ideas right off the page and into your direct experience.
Shikan is actually made of two parts. Shi, which means calming the mind, and Kan, which means contemplation or gaining insight. You might actually recognize these by their classic Buddhist names, shamatha and vipassana. The idea is simple. First you calm the waters, then you can look into them clearly.
And there's a really structured path here. You start by just calming and settling the mind. Then you start to observe your thoughts, not as problems you need to get rid of, but through that lens of the threefold truth. From there, you turn that insight inward toward your own sense of self, and finally, you expand it outward to see all of reality in this deeply interconnected way. This is just such a powerful shift in perspective. So often, we think meditation is about forcing our thoughts to stop, about wrestling our mind into silence. But in this practice, the goal is to see into the very nature of thought itself. And when you do that, even the most distracting, annoying, wandering thoughts can become your greatest teachers.
So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. What if that busy, looping mind that we so often fight against, what if it isn't actually a bug in the system? What if it's not a distraction from reality, but a doorway leading directly into it?